Even though we've created quite a few calculations already, I want to still do another basic calculation. You can never create enough calculations to truly understand what you can do with the calculation engine. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a calculation that combines first name and last name. Very powerful, and we'll eventually use it for a value list or displaying somewhere else. It'll be very handy. So let's go into File, Manage, Database, and we'll create a new field called Name Full. Let's go down and find, though, the last calculation we did, which used the left function. Remember that it grabbed the first letter of the last name? That used the left function there. We're going to change that to Name Full. We're not going to change that calculation. We're going to keep it because we need it for a report. But we're going to change the name here and then hit Create. And the first thing I do always is change it to the result I know it's going to be. If you don't, it doesn't matter how fantastic your calculation is, it may not perform properly. You may see the results you want, but it may not find correctly or sort correctly or any number of things. It may not work in a relationship correctly. Make sure you do this first, or else I guarantee you'll be sorry. And the problem is you won't realize this is what you've done. You'll go, and why isn't this script working? Well, it's referenced in a field that has a calculation that's the wrong result. So make sure you do that first. So let's go over this dialog again. Here are all your fields, and here's how you change to a related table. We're not going to do that right now, but if we double clicked on zip, you'd see it brings down the table occurrence or the table with the name of the field. We're going to actually double click on fields in the current table because we're just concatenating the first and last name. Now we have operators over here, and we've gone over quite a few, and we'll do a couple here also. We'll get to all of them, just about all of them, during this whole tutorial. And then you have your functions. There are quite a bit of them. I mean, don't get overwhelmed. There's so many here, but just realize things you won't use in here, like kanji numeral. That's if you're using Japanese text. You don't need to know that. You can cross that off the list. LG, that's a trigonometric function. You don't need to worry about that. We'll help you concentrate on the functions that are most important on an everyday basis. So what we're going to do is take a look at this menu right here, and you can see that we're listing all functions by name, but we can list them by type if we want. Here's all the text functions. We can list just the text functions if we want, or just the aggregate functions. This may help you. I generally use all functions by name because I know them by heart, and I use type ahead to locate them, like left. Just type in LEF. It all depends on what you want to do. If you want to go ahead and use these menus, this might help you in the beginning, but eventually you'll probably start using type ahead. Now, this menu up here is kind of silly right now because it only has one choice. These are table occurrences up here, and this allows you to change the context of the evaluation of this calculation. Now, 99% of the time you're going to leave it the same, but once we get into relationships, this may become important, and we'll probably do a couple of calculations where it is important. But for right now, just disregard it because most of the time you will anyhow. So we'll come down into the area where you make your calculation, and we're going to go in here and find the name field, the name first. We'll simply double click on it, and then we'll come over here to the ampersand. This allows you to concatenate. You notice it puts spaces on either side of the ampersand. These aren't necessary, but it makes the formula easier to read. Then we'll click on the quotes, and you can type these in. And frankly, I always type in all my calculations because I find it faster. But that's because I know all these formulas and all these functions off the top of my head. When you're just starting, it's probably a little bit easier to use these buttons and things like that. And in between the quotes, we're going to type a space because we don't want the first name and last name to run on. Then we'll click our cursor outside there, hit the ampersand, then we'll find name last. Double click on it, and our formula is done. It will take the contents of name first, glue it or concatenate it with a space, not quote, space, quote. The quotes just tell that whatever's in here between the quotes, that should be static text that we use. And then concatenate or glue that to the last name. Simple as that, but very powerful. Now there's a lot of options down here like storage options and do not evaluate and repetitions. Don't worry about that for right now. You don't use those very often. The most important one down here is the result, and that's one you should know right now. So we'll click OK. We'll click OK again, and let's go into layout mode and put this field on the layout temporarily. We don't really want it on the layout permanently. Just going to put it on there. We'll find our name field with type ahead. There's name full. Click OK. We'll make it a little bit bigger so you can read it. Justify it to the left, and we'll resize this field, and then we'll go to browse mode. You can see what it does is it combines the first and the last name. Now how is this different than what we're doing with our other auto enter calculation. It is a different formula. It says take what's in our first name and billing and put it into the shipping. But it's really not that much different in that whenever we change things, we can go ahead and make it update from billing to shipping. Right now we don't have it set up like that because we only want it to enter the first time, but we could make whatever we type into here always go into here. That's an option on the auto enter. So what's the difference between these two types of formulas? Well, the difference is I can modify this one. I can say I want that to be Pam. Over here, I can't modify this. If I try to change it, it says this action can't be performed. The only way you can change this is by going to the original fields and changing them here. As soon as you exit, you'll see that calculation updates. So there's a difference between those two things. They're very similar, auto enter calculations with the option to do not. Actually, let's go take a look at it real quick. Sometimes I forget what it's called. So we've got an auto enter calculation right here. And it's this option right here, do not replace existing value of any. If we uncheck that, that says continuously auto enter. And we've obviously on this field haven't unchecked it because we don't want that to happen. But when you do that, it makes it work like this type of calculation. So the difference is this cannot be edited, this can.